thank you very much for even stopping this long and thank you for entertaining my little charade. I'm just going to ask sort of both groups to try and kind of summarise this and see where we're going from here. If it's kind of carry on but just make it a bit better, just try hard, a bit better events, then fine. If that's the message, that's fine. But if we want to, you know, embark on something a little bit bolder, then also tell us.
So we've got like and no like. What we like to start with the Axis community was an updating of our knowledge. So it was somewhere that we could find out more. A knowledge centre, so somewhere where there are people who already have that knowledge that people can come and tap into. So there's an exchange, updating, and a centre of knowledge. People liked the fact that it was practical knowledge that was offered by Axis courses and by the centre itself, with the SEO workshops, that the presentation, that the chance that you could go home and maybe do something, and they liked that idea. It was not necessarily something that was being done to its best. The accessibility and that it's accessible. You do the courses and you find out there's this community that you can come along to as a student, and that it's free for cost, and that it's free and easy, and that it's also an open network and an open environment. And also sort of people seem to like meeting up with other people who had done the courses, who were doing business focused on, they wanted to know what the web was about, and that it was a sort of a social foundation as well for that to happen. On the no-like, there was a very strong sense that the lack of structure and the lack of focus, and that businesses themselves are invisible, and that we never really find out what each other's businesses are, and as a result what knowledge we all have to benefit each other's businesses. And then the other one, that it's just Johnny's fault.
Fair enough. The Johnny's fault was about...
yeah.
It wasn't... Was that you?
It's all right. It's all right. You don't have to justify yourself.
There wasn't an awareness completely, which I said was our fault as the centre. And then we would really like people to bring other people into it that would benefit from it. And it was our fault as Axis that we hadn't made that clear enough.
In normal business networking, you go and exchange. It's about networking and finding business and leads, whereas here it's more about sharing knowledge. It's not about getting new clients, it's about getting new knowledge. So then we sort of thought, well, what happens next? And the speakers' idea of having speakers that weren't quite so in-depth and absolute experts. We want experts to talk to us, but we also want people who can bring us in at the beginning of a concept and take us to a point by the end of the hour session where you feel that you've got some knowledge that you can go away and do something. And maybe some practical workshops where, if we're in a Wi-Fi building, that people can bring along their Wi-Fi laptops and actually show our work that we're doing so far and get some advice on our code, or whether it's looking at our session and it's about giving advice on people's websites, or whether it's doing a Twitter workshop where the people who have the knowledge can not only teach but can also introduce them to a wider network.
Possibly get some proper paid speakers in, because we don't know what you're in for. You know you're going to come and get something out of it. Even if you have to test and see if, you know, are people willing to pay a little bit to come for the evening. And
then we started to talk about, well, who owns Axis? Not the theory behind who owns Axis, but when we went round and said who owns it, it seemed to be a feeling that, you know, Johnny and the team own it. Although they realise that that's probably not necessarily what it's supposed to be, but there needs to be more contribution, and the idea of this 10-minute show and tell or share of issue, that if someone's got an issue, I think the one you came up with was the Google. There's something you wanted to do, a specific thing that you wanted to do on Google, that for 10 minutes there could be, you know, a masterminding session where that issue gets solved within just 10 minutes. They tell what the problem is. Someone either says, yes, I can show you, and goes to a laptop and shows them, or they just, you know, there's a bit of discussion.
I think that one came back to the awareness, didn't it? Awareness of people having problems.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily spending the time to answer the problem, but if people are aware of the issues and people have, as well as kind of what they're trying to do.
Then we had the big word of collaboration, that is a very huge and important thing that whether it's in business or IT or learning or education, that collaboration is an incredibly important thing. So then the direction of Axis and the mission, which is very vague, to give and share knowledge and support members in their businesses to connect them with the web and the people who are using it, so using the web. Throughout everything, no matter what changes in the industry, that those initial points of sharing knowledge, updating knowledge, structured meetings, encouraging more people to interact, and then 3 years, just the sense that maintaining that consistency, that unless we expand to other Axis communities that are independent of us, that are running on the same methodology in different places, that we're independent, maybe connected across the web, that here the core Axis community as it sort of stands, sort of with a little bit of work, could be a very powerful thing, and to sort of work and build on the foundations that are already there.
I think the other thing that I got from was the feeling that we need to have a little bit more interaction, so people that come should maybe talk about their business bits at the beginning, maybe one person, so that we all get to know more about the people in the business, and that there's time afterwards to talk to people.
And thought of the big picture, as in Axis, not necessarily Axis community, I have to confess. Only because we're enthusiastic. But anyway, we deliberated over keeping the name, pros and cons for it. I don't think we reached a logical conclusion. It was a 50-50 split. We thought there's a branding continuity aspect if we start divorcing Axis and Axis community called something else. We kept thinking commercially about the funding model of it and who the potential students are. The levels of students, so if you start aiming your business and the community at literal students, people around 20, 21, 22, 23, and people 30 years more senior, more experienced in life, how do you do that? How do you market to a diverse cross-section of people? The affiliation with the college, we generally had a consensus, is a negative, because it's FE. And we don't mean that is bad, but it's just perhaps not as rewarding and doing as much good as it could. And certainly Mark and myself meeting a lot of people in our work and referring them to Access, because there's big skills gap. We very quickly, as I said to Johnny, we go, it's Access Centre, they're based in Castle College at Beeston, and they're affiliated to the Montfort. And when we run that strapline out really quick, it's kind of a reassuring thing. And I didn't consciously come up with that at the time of doing it 6 months ago when we started doing it, but we do it. So, and I think it's quite relevant. Most of us thought it's more of a benefit to be affiliated to the Montfort than it is to an FE, because you've got to think of your whole market, not just your narrow market of, say, 18 to 25-year-olds. Social events, we thought more variety. How we come up with that variety, one thing we'll put later is that we actually ask the people who come, what do you want? Have we ever asked that within the group? And I think people will be less lazy and contribute that verbally. It was terrible, couldn't get a word in. Keynote speakers, we also agree with you guys. You know, whether they're motivational, inspirational, rags to riches story. Mark and I go to these things through various things in the East Midlands, and you know, we've seen Wayne Hemingway and all sorts of people. We also thought about having something for the community stroke access out in the public domain in somewhere like the conference centre at East Midlands Conference Centre at Notts University, to get the brand out there and the exposure and the credibility. Kind of contradictory to having an agenda. We might sort of have 1 month in 4 off and have no agenda, or almost a free-for-all. Because we thought we could make this too formal. We need more formality, more control, more agenda. But if we do it too much, people run the opposite way and nobody will come. We certainly agree, we didn't clarify how we're going to have a board. We certainly said we needed it to be a complete cross-section of the community, not just a certain type of person.